Walking a path along the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road to the Anselm Society Digital Pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and which team has the best chance at a 5-12 upset this year. At a corner table by the fire are 3 people. One of them is trying and failing to talk the others into his 15-2 upset. And that's me, Matthew Mellema, and welcome to Believe to See, a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to help you connect the great story, the great stories, and our own stories in order to understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. Well, listeners, it's that time of year, March Madness. I am not exaggerating at all when I say that the first 2 days of March Madness are 2 of my favorite days of the entire year. These are days that should be spent with a large group of friends and family, eating wings and cheering on the underdogs and laughing at our busted brackets. And in this episode, we will be focusing on brackets. One of my favorite yearly rituals is filling out my March Madness bracket and adding it to my family's extended bracket pool. Am I good at filling out my bracket? Not at all. Last year, out of 25 people in my pool, I finished in 25th. But getting my bracket right isn't the point. The point is the joy of filling out the blank spaces, feeling an unwarranted surge of confidence as you choose the national champion, then seeing all your predictions crumble into dust before your eyes. I thought on this episode, we could try to capture a small part of that magic. I've created a March Madness bracket for the Anselm Society. And today, my 2 co-hosts are going to help me fill out that bracket. Let me welcome those 2 co-hosts, Mandy Houck and Christina Brown. Mandy, how are you doing?
I'm good. I love March Madness. I always fill it out knowing absolutely nothing. And yeah, it's sort of like when people choose horse, when they're betting on horses and they choose it because they like the name. I'll be like, oh, I like that part of the country. I'll choose that. Oh, that's a cute mascot.
Exactly. But you do fill out a bracket every year.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you do this past year? Do you remember?
Nope.
All right. Well, again, I came in 25th out of 25 extended family members. I picked 0 out of the final 8 teams correct, which is pretty hard to do. It's actually impressive how bad I was.
I think I got like 1 or 2 in the Elite 8, but yeah.
Yeah. My
sure.
Kids have started filling brackets out, and my one son, Henry, his philosophy is he just picks the team that he likes to say the name of. So a couple years ago, Buffalo University had a pretty decent team. And he loves saying Buffalo. Okay. He had them going the whole way just on the strength of Buffalo. Yeah, so now let's welcome the other co-host, Christina Brown. How are you, Christina?
I am trepidatiously excited.
Okay, now, do you ever fill out a March Madness bracket?
I have not.
Okay, are you familiar with the concept?
Hardly.
Okay, so this is actually good, and I was kind of banking on it because, Christina, you are here as sort of the March Madness innocent, right? So if there's any listeners who listen to this show, but they don't really follow sports, that's totally fine. I'm going to try to explain this in a way that will still be compelling for you. And since you have Christina here in your court, place.
Guys. Matt, did you hear me?
What?
I said, I'll be in your court, guys.
There you go. Christina is in your court. See, that's a basketball reference. And she will be here in your place. So if you have any questions, Christina will ask them for you. All right.
That's right.
So here's the basic premise. The goal today is to choose the artist from history that is the most Anselm-y. Which artist best reflects the goals, the values, the aspirations of the Anselm Society? Who is the best avatar for what we mean by a renaissance of the Christian imagination? Okay?
Okay.
So
very nice.
I have selected 64 possible candidates for you all to choose from.
Okay.
And like in March Madness, I have divided those 64 artists into 4 different regions. for those of you doing the math at home, that's 16 artists in each region. Okay, Christine, are you
Okay.
following with me so far?
Well, first of all, what's a region?
It's just a region, an area, a
Of the
widget.
country for March Madness?
I've
So like, how
divided
do
them
they-
into 4 parts.
Right. But how does that work with Anselm artists?
I will be getting to that in just a bit.
Okay.
So instead of
Yeah,
geographic
for basketball, it's geography. Right.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
for this, it is their medium. Okay,
That's
so
what I
the
was
4
gonna
groups
think.
are
Yeah. Okay.
Ah.
novelists,
Okay.
musicians, visual artists, and miscellaneous. Basically, all the other ones that didn't quite fit.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So divide it. So there's going to be 16 novelists, 16 musicians, 16 visual artists, 16 miscellaneous. Okay.
Okay.
So
Got it.
within each of those groups of 16, I have ranked them. I have seeded them, given them a
Mhm.
seed of 1 to 16.
Okay.
The number 1 seed is the one who I feel, based on my general vibe of what Anselm folks would like, would be the strongest.
Yes. Science.
Second,
It's all
the
science.
2 seed is the second strongest. 3 seed is the third, all the way down to 16.
Right.
Okay, are you tracking with me so far?
Did you say seat or see?
Seed, like a seed
Oh.
that you plant in the ground.
Oh, okay.
That's a term. So the number 1 seed is the best, or the
Oh,
one that's expected to win.
All right. The one that's expected to germinate,
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
to blossom.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
then we're going to break it into a single elimination tournament for each region. Okay.
Okay.
So the 1 seed will play the 16 seed, right? So the
Mhm.
best team will play the worst team.
Mhm.
The winner of that game goes on to the second round. The loser is eliminated.
Yep.
Then the 2 seed will play the 15 seed. Same deal.
Right.
Then 3, 14, 4, 13, 5, 12.
Right.
You get the pattern now, right?
Yep.
Nope.
That's
So-
this is one of those things where it's the board game. You have to explain it to a point, and then
So, all right. So basically, each of these artists, I've divided them up. They're each going to play each other. So the 1
Right.
seed will play the 16 seed. The winner goes on. The loser is eliminated. So that we keep going.
So are the artists playing each other in their own genre? I should say in their own region.
at
Yes.
first, yes.
Okay, at first. Okay.
Because the final 4 is the best from each region. So at the end, we will have
Okay.
1 novelist, 1 miscellaneous, 1 musician, and 1 visual artist.
So we're going to
That's
have
right.
one best out of every single one of those.
Mhm.
And then there's going to be a final artist of any of
Exactly.
these. Okay, cool. Got it.
Exactly. So
Got it.
what I'm
It
going to
just
do
shrinks.
is I'm going to present you these regions. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a matchup. So it's artist A versus artist B. You
Okay.
two, Mandy and Christina, can discuss amongst yourselves who you feel is the most Anselm-y. You can use
Okay.
whatever criteria you want. Okay. It's open ended.
Okay.
And then you're going to pick a winner. If you two are split, I'll go ahead and be the tiebreaker. But I'm only
Okay.
there if there's a divide.
Okay.
Now, for the people who I selected, a little bit about this, folks. First off, I tried to get a wide variety of different sorts of people. So different time periods, different specific types of art, different sorts of people. So I tried to mix it up as much as I could. Second, the seating, it's very subjective. Okay. So if you're going to be like, oh, that Matt has that novelist that low, Matt must suck. Maybe I do suck, but basically, I just tried my best. Upsets are going to happen, right? So, Christina,
That's the beauty, the busted bracket. Yep.
you all are free to pick an upset if you want, okay?
Okay.
Also, I set a rule that if an artist has a direct connection with Anselm, so like they've spoken at a conference, they've been on a podcast, they're disqualified because that's a conflict of interest, right?
That's fair.
Okay.
I'm sure we'd all love to pick S.D. Smith in the novelist thing, but we know him. We know he's a good guy.
Right.
That's an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
So S.D. Smith, Andrew Peterson, all the usual suspects, they're out. Okay,
Okay.
just because we want to keep it above board, no personal conflicts here.
Got it.
All right, and also I tried not to do too many deep cuts. So for listeners at home, for you both. I tried to do ones that are generally more well-known artists, okay? So this is sort of like trying to be more more widespread popularity, more widespread people know them. But
Okay.
I'm going to mention some people who maybe you've never heard of them, or maybe you're like, oh, I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you a single thing they did.
Okay.
In that case, I will provide you a few bullet points just to sort of get you going like, oh, this person is best known for this work of art and this work of art. If you want, you can Google it really quick. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
So that is what we're going to do. We're going to go through the bracket. The first round is going to take most of the time, but after we get through the first round, it should go a little bit more quickly. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Christina, do you have any questions?
So far, I think I'm okay. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do this.
So which region do you want to start with?
Well, all three of us are writers, so I could say the novelist, but I just want to completely mix it up, and I want to go musician. How about you, Mandy?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. So the
right.
4 regions, like I said, there's the novelists, the visual artists, the musicians, and miscellaneous. As we know, we have a Anselm Society Arts Guild crest with three mythical creatures, and each of these sub-guilds has their own mythical creature. The novelists, we have the unicorns because we're special. The visual artists have the phoenix. The musicians have the griffin. And miscellaneous, I gave them my favorite mythical creature, the camel leopard. But so we're in musicians. We're in the griffin region, musicians. So here's what I will do. I will start off by reading the 16 seeds, 1 to 16.
Okay.
Just so you get the general lay of the land. Then we'll start off with the 1-16 matchup. Okay?
Right. Got it.
Okay. So the 16 people selected for this division are the number 1 seed in the Griffin region, Johann Sebastian Bach. The number 2 seed, George Handel. The 3 seed, Aretha Franklin. The 4 seed, Bono. The 5 seed, Fanny Crosby. The 6 seed, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The 7 seed, Lecrae. The 8 seed, Charles Wesley. The 9 seed, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. The 10 seed, Dolly Parton. The 11 seed, Bob Dylan. The 12 seed, John Coltrane. The 13 seed, Franz Schubert. The 14 seed, Johnny Cash. The 15 seed, Isaac Watts. And coming in at the 16 seed, Yo-Yo Ma.
Ooh.
All right. Any high-level thoughts on the selections? Any snubs that you want to talk about?
No, I think you did a great job with variety.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to mix it up between composers, hymn writers, so I tried. So that's what we're doing. All right. Any other questions before we get going with the matchups?
No, I just think Yo-Yo Ma is going to be very offended when he listens to this episode that you put him up against Bach and
I mean, someone had to be the 16 seed. Nothing against Yo-Yo Ma.
Sorry, Mr. Ma.
It was either him or Johnny Cash or Isaac Watts. I mean, this is kind of a lot. All right, so let's dive right in, shall we? The first matchup, Johann Sebastian Bach versus Yo-Yo Ma. Discuss amongst yourselves.
I mean, I don't feel like there's a way to knock out Bach.
No, I think Bach is clear
I think
winner.
Yo-Yo Ma would vote for Bach.
Yeah,
in this
I think
scenario.
he would too. Yep.
So, listeners, if you want to go back in our archives, our very own musician and member artist, Terry Moon, is a great lover and admirer of Bach. We did a whole episode on why Bach is the best. So,
and I agree.
We would not cross Terry Moon even if we wanted to. The main reason I put Yo-Yo Ma in is I think it's fascinating that he is able to cross over into more general popularity being a cello player, right?
Yes.
Like how many other cello players have general popularity?
Okay, have you guys heard his Goat Rodeo? Have you heard his Goat Rodeo sessions?
Mm-mm.
Okay, you need to look up Goat Rodeo because it's him with Chris Thiele. You know what? That was a snub. You don't have Chris Thiele in there. Sorry.
Well, there you go. I'm very open to snub. I actually have a list of people who I know I snubbed. So if you want to add anyone, that's fine.
Look up Chris Thiele. He is from Nickel Creek, not Nickelback.
I love Nickel Creek.
I know. And he's also from the Punch Brothers. The man plays absolutely everything, but it's Yo-Yo Ma, Chris Thiele, and someone else who I can't remember right now. And they play bluegrass, and it's insane.
Oh yeah, and Yo-Yo Ma, he can do so many like different genres too. Like he's just effortless. And I grew up with classical music and playing classical music, and like trust me when I say he's just one of the best of the best. It's just a fact. And he loves it. And he's one of those people I think who like breathes it. And it's not just something he does, it's something he is, and it's something that you just Yo-Yo Ma is cello and the other way around. So it's pretty impressive.
That is very true.
Matthew, before we go on, quick question though. What is a snub?
That means he should have listed them, but he didn't.
Yeah, so it's a so it'd be like a team who's like, you should have included me in the tournament. I deserve to be there, but they're left out.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah.
All right, so there we go. That is a good way to get started. So I love how we are saying all those nice things about Yo-Yo Ma, but in the end, he lost to Bach. No shame in that, Yo-Yo Ma. It's okay. All right, so that is the first matchup. Now the second matchup, the 2-15 seed. So it's Handel. You may recall his Handel's Messiah versus the great hymn writer Isaac Watts.
This is rough.
If you want to make a case for the 15 seed, Mandy, go for it.
Well, how? Yeah, there. I'm so articulate. I think. What do you think, Christina?
Oh,
I think it's obvious it has to be Handel, but I'm annoyed because I like Isaac Watts. So I guess I just would like him to be higher, but that's.
Yeah, the problem with them being pitted against each other is, I would say, one thing about Anselm is, the Anselm Society is very big on community singing and communal singing and all of that stuff. And both Handel and Isaac Watts wrote music for that, for communal worship. And so it's not like you can say, oh, well, one's more Anselm-y because one has more of an emphasis on this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that I have an easy answer. And I feel annoyed too, Mandy, that it feels like we almost have to say, well, of course, Handel, but why?
Right.
Oh, so it sounds like you guys both feel like Watts should have been a higher seed.
Yes.
Watts, the author of When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, Joy to the World, O God, Our Help in Ages Past, and 750 other hymns, the godfather of English hymnody.
See, now you're making me think of Watts might take out Handel.
I think he couldn't have kicked out. He could not have kicked out Bach, but he might be able to have a slight edge over Handel.
So
Handel,
and maybe because
the Royal Fireworks.
Maybe because Handel's music is more often choral than communal, and so maybe from an Anselm perspective, we would say Watts because his was almost exclusively communal, right?
Yes, although that's partly because of the time period.
Yeah, right. Even it doesn't matter the why. I'm just saying, that's more Anselm-y to be communal.
Okay, so what is your answer?
What would we be more likely to sing at an Anselm event? Handel's Messiah or Wondrous Cross?
Well, if it's going to be what would be more likely to be sung, obviously be Watts' hymns, but I think you'd be much more likely to have a performance of Terry Moon's going to do this selection from Handel's Messiah.
That's true.
I think it might have. Oof, it's tough. I know it's a mean one, but I think we might have to say
Mr.
Handel.
Grinch. Yeah.
So you're going with who? With Handel? Okay,
Handel.
but it seems like it was a closely fought game. Really scared Handel down at the end there.
It was a buzzer beater.
Isaac Watts leaves in the first round, but with his head held high. Yeah. All right, so third game. Haha, this is a good one. Aretha Franklin versus Johnny Cash.
That's not that hard for me.
I don't know anything about Aretha Franklin. I just know her
why
name.
Is that not hard for you, Mandy?
Because, well, wait. I guess I'm assuming knowledge that I'm not sure. But I mean, I think Cash sang more scriptural, like Christian songs, didn't he, than Aretha?
Well, I mean, Aretha got her start like in the gospel
in gospel
tradition.
music. You're right.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason I put her there, she's sort of this interesting figure where she's like the preeminent, like one of the preeminent like Motown singers, but also gospel.
That's true.
You can really tell that her gospel background infuses her music, and apparently she kept the infusion of her faith throughout her career.
Oh,
but
see?
Cash has a lot of those elements too. He seems to have had more of a later in life conversion experience, but a lot of religious themes in his work as well.
I mean, I would rather. I love my Johnny Cash, but if I'm going to sit there and put some music on it, well, no, I put Johnny Cash on. Oh, you're making it hard. I do love Aretha Franklin. There's actually I'm not going to be able to remember, but there was a documentary that actually showed her singing in a church. So I don't know why I didn't remember. But I watched it on an overseas flight, and it was amazing. So, like real footage of her putting on a show in a church. Do you have thoughts, Christina?
Like I said, I haven't heard her music that I'm aware of, so I'm just Googling her right now.
I mean, the Queen of Soul.
I'm sure you've heard of her.
Yep, Queen of Soul is what she's called. Memphis, Tennessee. In the 1960s is when she started singing. Gospel Music Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Pulitzer Prize, a posthumous citation for her indelible.
Look up her songs, because when you see her songs, you'll go, "Oh, I know her." I promise.
So my thoughts here is that I think Cash. I mean, I made the list, so
yeah.
So I thought Cash deserved to be on because of the interesting way his sort of more newfound faith infused his later works. But to me, Aretha is someone whose whole corpus of work, you can tell the roots. I think her father was a preacher, so she grew up singing it. This was the tradition that she sang, and it's a very authentic, distinctly African American version, view of Christianity and Christian songs that she, I think, was the preeminent voice of, especially in the middle part of the century.
Yeah,
like you said, she's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Gospel Hall of Fame. I think she's an immensely important figure in music and specifically gospel and Christian music. So I would go with Aretha, which is why I made her the 3 seed.
I think I would too.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know why I even hesitated at the beginning. It's just because I have a soft spot for Johnny, because my dad used to sing. Oh, so do I,
though. I have a great soft spot for him. I agree. Yeah.
My dad used to sing his songs to me. So.
Yeah, my dad did too. Yeah. There you go. What do you know? Although, did you know, I was just reading Aretha Franklin, she sang at Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Johnny Cash never did that.
No. And Jennifer Hudson sang at Aretha Franklin's funeral just a few years ago.
Very nice.
Yep.
All right. So here's the 413 seed. This is very interesting. Bono versus Franz Schubert.
We're going to have a lot of dead air because I'm staring into space trying to decide. Give me your arguments. Let's see some gameplay.
So Matt. I will tell you why I put Bono so high. Again, he's a 4 seed. His band, U2, was the most important band of the 80s, one of the most important bands of the 20th century. True. And it is clear, especially in more recent years, that his faith is informing a lot of his work. He had that really fascinating, interview conversation series with Eugene Peterson.
I didn't know that. I have to look that
Mandy,
up.
How did you? I mean, this is right up your alley.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Because you remember, I believe I've said on the pod that I was the first North American girl to have discovered U2.
There
no
you
one
go.
else knew.
There you go. I mean, and actually, Bono reached out to Eugene Peterson because Bono was like reading one of his translations and admired it. And Eugene Peterson, he didn't know anything about pop culture. He's like, like Bono is like, hey, I'll be my U2's in town. Here's like backstage passes if you want it. And Eugene Peterson didn't go because he was just like translating Isaiah or something. And
he's like, who is this Bono?
Bono? But they eventually struck up a friendship, and their conversation together was very interesting.
That's cool.
I will admit, I could not tell you a whole bunch about Schubert off the cuff.
Yeah, see, that's my problem. I'm sitting here and I'm hearing my mother be appalled in my mind.
A lot of the composers kind of blend together for me. Sorry, Terry.
He did a lot of lullabies.
That's what I thought. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sound dumb, but now I sound dumber.
You just sound like a cautious person.
So Christina, what are your thoughts?
I don't know anything about Schubert's faith, or he's German, I guess, right? Is he German?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or Austrian. Wait a minute. He might be Austrian.
Oh, he might be Austrian. Yeah.
Does that affect your calculus here?
No.
Absolutely. No, I'm just kidding.
I will let an Austrian into the second round.
I'll take Irish. I'll take Irish with Bono.
Austrian. Yep. Austrian composer.
So just so you know, Schubert,
I did something right.
Schubert, born and raised in a traditional Catholic home, seems to have kept his Catholic faith most of his life. He composed Ave Maria, so never heard of it. So that's a pretty big one. Like you said,
I realized that. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and then Bono was raised in a Catholic home, I assume, because
he's Irish. So
Irish.
I think so.
He has
Schubert did a lot of like sacred music as well.
Right. Bono has a lot of he has said and written some really profound things about his faith and about Jesus. And I like that he is listened to by people inside and outside the faith.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like, Mandy, you're leaning toward Bono.
Yeah, it sounds like we agree with your pick so far. It's the top four. What about you, Christina?
So
Christina
Bono
didn't
takes care of business against Franz Schubert. The 4 advances over the 13.
Okay.
5-12. Now, as we all know, Mandy, there's a 5-12 upset every year, right? There's at least one. This one could have some upset potential. 5 seed, Franny Crosby. 12 seed, John Coltrane.
Are we going to knock out another hymn?
Are you? I mean, it's up to you.
I had Fanny Crosby on my pub table a few years ago. Remember?
I mean, if you think Franny Crosby's more Anselm-y than Coltrane, that is your prerogative.
Tell me why Coltrane's on there.
Coltrane is one of those.
I know who Coltrane is, and I know his music, but I'm trying to figure out why he would be Anselm-y.
Well, I think Coltrane is fascinating, right? I mean, he's one of the greatest jazz musicians / jazz composers of all time. He has this very interesting relationship with faith. He grew up in a Christian home. He seems to have kept his faith in some form throughout his life. He got kind of loosey-goosey, a little more pantheistic, universalist toward the end of his life. His album, A Love Supreme, really looks at spiritual dimensions, again, from a Christian-ish perspective. Here's something interesting. He was canonized as a saint by something called the African Orthodox Church, which is
He's a saint?
Which
like
is not
Anselm?
affiliated with the actual Orthodox Church. It's kind of its own thing.
Who are we talking about?
Johnny Coltrane.
John Coltrane.
Oh.
So again, I mean, we're looking at one of the greatest and most influential jazz musicians and composers of the 20th century, someone who delved very deeply into faith and spirituality, might have strayed from what we would call Orthodox Christianity by the end, but still wrestles with these questions in a very Anselm-y way. So that would be Coltrane. And Mandy, why don't you tell us some more about Franny Crosby?
Well, she was one of the most prolific hymn writers. And I mean, man, and it's Fanny. You keep saying Franny, by the way.
Sorry.
But I mean, her name was Frances, so okay, but she was Fanny. But she was a missionary, but she also, besides the hymns, she also was a poet. She wrote, I think it was thousands of hymns and gospel songs.
8,000 hymns and gospel songs she's credited with.
Well, there you
Some of
go.
her more well-known works are Blessed Assurance, To God Be the Glory, Praise Him. I mean, yeah. Some of the most well-known hymns ever were written by her.
Right.
I say Fanny Crosby without a doubt in my head.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because she, I think, wasn't she blind? Didn't she go blind pretty early?
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah. So I think there is something incredibly beautiful about being able to praise God through suffering and stay true and faithful and prolific in praising and creating and putting things out there until the end. And I just think she was a person who went through a lot. And suffering is something that is universal, and it seems very Anselm-y in the sense of like, yeah, we at Anselm kind of want to help equip all of us to learn how to suffer with Christ. And anyway, I think she was just really good at that.
Right. And she also was more, she wasn't, she did more than her hymn writing and poetry. She also like was a mission worker and like nurse and all this other stuff. Yeah. So like her whole life was consecrated, I would say. Didn't she write All the Way My Savior Leads Me? I think
that
probably
sounds right. Let me see.
She wrote 8,000.
I'll see if I can confirm while you all talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, I don't know. I think
we finished. I think we know.
So it sounds like Fanny wins over John Coltrane. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So apparently you seeded everyone correctly so far.
Aw, thanks,
no
guys.
No upset in the 512.
All right. So this next one, very interesting matchup.
Yeah.
It is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Wolfie, versus Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
So we have maybe one of the greatest musical geniuses of all time in Mozart.
I was going to say in Bob Dylan.
Well, and two of the greatest musical geniuses of all time. Mozart, obviously, Mozart's Requiem is what he's probably best well known for now. But again, even he's one of those people where even if you don't think you know a lot about classical composers, you recognize a lot of his work. Also, this is kind of tangential, but maybe not. Subject of what I think is one of the greatest and most Anselm-y movies ever made, Amadeus. He's not shown as a particularly pious or admirable man, but someone who...
I think that's accurate.
I mean, they took a lot of liberties with it, right?
Well,
yeah. But basically, it is his life... in the many flaws that he had in his life, lead us to a lot of reflection on that point. Bob Dylan, almost like Coltrane, where a Christian-ish, sort of, a little fuzzy.
I think the thing with Bob Dylan, though, is he is known for making things up about himself because he's so secretive. So I don't think anyone really knows what's true about him. So we almost have to look at his lyrics, which is probably that's probably his reason for doing that. We have to look at his lyrics to see who he is. And I will say, hot take, I don't like his voice. I liked it when he was young.
So
I liked it when he was younger.
But
I would rather
the diamond sky with. Well, okay.
Well, that was better than Bob Dylan. Sorry,
Mandy. But so some other things about Bob Dylan.
But his songwriting is.
I feel like all of us as writers are going to be inclined to like Bob Dylan because he is one of the greatest lyricists we've seen in modern times, right? His lyrics are absolutely fantastic. I, like many men my age, when I was in college, I went through a huge Bob Dylan phase. So I friggin' love the guy. I have to say, I don't hate Timothée Chalamet's interpretation of him in A Complete Unknown.
I haven't seen it yet.
Can I tell you something, Mandy? So Timothée Chalamet was on SNL, to promote the movie, and he was kind of making history because he was going to be part of the cast hosting. He was also the musical performer. performing the Bob
fun.
Dylan songs. And he said he's going to do a couple deep cuts, right? So like the less popular ones, but he happened to like one of the ones he chose is one of my favorite deep cuts too.
What is it?
Tomorrow is a Long Time. So good. It's soft. It's a gentler
that
song.
Title. Oh, Tomorrow is a Long Time.
But so now if me and Timothy Chalamet ever meet, we have something in common. We both like the same obscure Bob Dylan song. But so this is a tough one. Christina, Mozart or Bob Dylan?
I am going to have to pass. I don't think I have enough evidence for either. I have not dived into Bob Dylan like many men of your age, Matthew. So
I gotta go Dylan. Okay. Because we're not just talking about who's the better, quote unquote, but the more Anselm-y, and there's yeah, sorry, I can almost hear the screaming of the listeners from here, but
well, I mean, to that point, Mandy, we're not determining who the better or more influential musician was. Mozart's one of the greatest, maybe the greatest composer of all time.
It's just the most Anselm-y. And
Dylan
I feel like Bob
you would
Dylan,
say is more Anselm-y.
Because he comes from because he's a poet and yeah.
All right. So there we go. Yeah. The first upset in our bracket, the 11 seed defeating the 6 seed.
My son-in-law will be very happy. I'm just saying.
What a surprise. Your son-in-law, another dude. He probably went to a big Bob Dylan stage in college.
Yes, believe it or not, my son-in-law is actually a dude. That's why I call him my son-in-law.
All right. Here's another great matchup.
Okay.
7-10's matchup. Lecrae versus Dolly Parton.
Parton.
Would you care to explain?
Because she's Dolly Parton. I don't know what. Because she's Dolly Parton. Because she is one of the most honest, most hardworking. Everyone who has ever worked with her always talks about she is always early. She always works harder than anyone else. I'm not saying I love all of her songs, although I don't. Do you know what? The ones I don't like, when there was the trend back in the 70s, and she totally did this, when they would sing and then there would be an interlude in the middle and they would talk. I hate that. But anyway, but other than that, I mean, the woman has written even more songs than people realize. I mean, she wrote, I was going to say My Heart Will Go On, but that's not right. She wrote I Will Always Love You. She wrote that from Bodyguard. But also just her, the way she lives her entire life. Because I don't know if you know, but people have figured out she could easily be a billionaire, but she isn't because she gives it all away. She has given over 1 million books to children who wouldn't be able to afford them. I also love her little, I don't know if you know, like she's been married for, I don't know, they got married like forever, but it's perfect because he's such an introvert. He never goes to anything. And so it's really cool for her because when she goes home, this has nothing to do with category, but it's a good story. But it's good for her because then when she goes home, like her home with her husband is completely, it's like a totally different place. And it's probably why their marriage has lasted, because a lot of show business ones don't. But I just feel like her integrity, I never feel like she's being anything other than what she is, which is kind of hilarious when you look at her. There's a lot of work and extraneous accessories. But she owns that. She owns that.
It's really funny because like you said, if you just look at her and the additions, you would think, oh, this is a very shallow, vapid person. But she's completely the opposite of it. She's, like you mentioned, Mandy, a brilliant songwriter. Absolutely a brilliant songwriter. One of the best we've had. I may have shared this before, but I just find it so amazing. She wrote I Will Always Love You in Jolene on the same day. What? Yeah, she wrote them both on the same day. And
she's amazing. Man. And I've seen her like interviewed, and she'll like if she has her guitar, she'll just write stuff. Like I've seen that in multiple interviews. She'll just throw out a song. You know,
she's a brilliant, extremely talented musician. Just really incredible,
and came from nothing and loves to talk about that.
I don't understand though. First of all, I'm hearing all these things and I'm agreeing with the ones of them that I definitely know. I don't understand why Lecrae is on this list. So can you bring us back to Lecrae? Tell us why Lecrae is on your list, Matthew.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because he has been or at least was in the recent past, the most prominent, like openly Christian person sort of out there in the, especially the rap scene.
Yeah, see, this is
Really?
my age. I'm blaming my age for not knowing. I just looked him up and I had heard of him and I've heard his songs, but he's like that sweet spot of where I was too old and my girl,
He was
my
just
girls
coming
didn't
onto the
listen
scene
either.
when I was in college, and he started off sort of like in the Christian realm, right? But then he broke through because he's actually really, really good and he's really talented and he has sort of crossover appeal. And I think he's a very interesting person. He gets interviewed on like faith, faith and race, faith and politics, faith and artistic stuff. I find him a very thoughtful person. He's had, pretty high profile interviews with a lot of prominent Christian leaders. And he's always kept that in a thoughtful way while making very high quality music that, again, started in the Christian realm, but then sort of broke out because it was good. So I absolutely think he deserves to be on the list.
Yeah, and I think he's an excellent matchup for Dolly. Like, I'm actually sitting here thinking they should like collab.
Oh, that would actually
have.
I would 100% listen to a Lecrae Dolly Parton collaboration.
I would too. But I have read things that he said and stuff. It just was not as far as like when I was born and when my children were born, he fell through the gap of like, I didn't listen to him and neither did my kids just because generationally. So
it sounds like
I've heard of his is Coming in Hot. And I hate that song with a passion.
Oh,
so literally I had no idea he was a Christian.
So it sounds like Dolly Parton's going to get the nod largely because of our audience here. And that's okay. Lecrae, nothing against you. It's just, this was not the demographic that fell through the cracks age-wise.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Dolly Parton's going to get the 7-10 upset over Lecrae. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I think so, but only because of my ignorance, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine too.
And because I hate his song Coming in Hot, but there's that too.
I don't even know that one. So
you do know that one, Mandy?
No. 8-9 is a matchup that is near and dear to my heart. 8-9 is going to be Charles Wesley, another hymn writer, versus Sister Rosetta Tharpe, the godmother of rock and roll.
Oh, man.
All right. So are either...
Again?
What was that?
Say those names again.
Charles Wesley versus Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Okay.
Yeah, and
she
was in the 30s and 40s with gospel, but then she started she rocked the electric guitar.
So Sister Rosetta Tharpe, I find completely fascinating. Again, listeners, go back in the archive, listen to an episode we did with the author of a book called This Train is Bound for Glory. There she is. The author of that book, really highly recommend. We had a really interesting conversation. We were talking a lot about Sister Rosetta Tharpe because, like I said, she's considered like the godmother of rock and roll. And if you look at her, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, she was like a deaconess or, deacon in her church. She dresses like my grandma would have dressed going to church.
Right.
But then you see her with her electric guitar and she'll just start rocking in these like 1930s, 40s clips. Absolutely fantastic. She was really innovative. She's one of the first people to intentionally use distortion with the electric guitar for the effect. And she's just an incredibly talented, influential musician. You would see her, I watch clips of her. She's African-American lady in the 40s, right? She's in these all white concert halls, but she just owns the crowd. She has this command, this presence. It was so powerful. She was such a talent. I can't get enough of her. But then again, Charles Wesley, one of the greatest hymn writers, right? Hark the Herald Angels Sing, among many, many others.
Christ the Lord is risen today.
Exactly. So this is the 8-9 matchups. This is the one where it's kind of they could go either way.
I have to go with Charles Wesley.
I was going to say Tharpe.
Wesley's theology is just rock solid.
Well, that is
So,
true.
yeah.
Do we know
I
her
feel like
beliefs?
those are extremely Anselm songs. And he also has some good artistry in the lyrics. So, given that,
and
that
I've been to his retreat center in St. Simon's Island. It's beautiful.
Aw, cool.
All right.
Yes,
so
that's gonna be my vote.
Mandy going Charles Wesley. What are you going? I mean, not Christina going Charles Wesley. Mandy, what are you going with?
I was weekly going Tharp, but I feel like I'm calling this an overtime match, and Christina takes it with Wesley.
If you would have said Tharp, I would have said Tharp.
Oh, really?
But okay, we'll do that. So Charles Wesley.
Okay. Darn.
All right.
You know what? That's the name of the game with the brackets, man.
That's the 8-9 matchup for you. They're evenly matched. Yeah. All right. So we have the first round done. The rest of these rounds should go a little bit more quickly because we already talked about them all. All right. So now we have the one seed Johann Sebastian Bach versus Charles Wesley in the second round. Who are we going with?
Wait, it doesn't go Bach to Dylan?
Nope, it'll be Bach to Wesley. The one seed, the winner of the 116 plays the winner of the 8-9.
Okay, sorry. Bach to Wesley, Bach.
It's going to have to be Bach.
All right,
and I
sorry,
actually feel better now because Bach would have beaten Tharp too. Sorry, Tharp.
Oh, there we go.
So.
All right. So next we have the 2 versus the 7. No, 2-10. So this will be Handel versus Dolly Parton.
I'm sticking with Parton. You can see it on my face. I'm all Dolly.
You want to go Parton, don't you?
I want to go Parton.
Okay, Christina.
I think I'm just going to have to say Handel.
Oh, boy. So, me to break the tie.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going Dolly Parton.
Yay!
I know she's the 10 seed, but Mandy, you kind of convinced me.
Are you going Dolly Parton, though, because you want to make it more interesting? Because I get that, but also don't you agree?
I didn't do that. I didn't do it for that reason. So
oh, no, I trust you. I don't trust the tiebreaker.
Well, maybe my taste is just excellent, and he agrees.
It might be, so that's why I'm
asking. Made a good case. I think Dolly Parton is really a good exemplar of what we would expect from an Anselm artist all the way around.
How is she better than Handel in that way?
Well, did Handel ever write Jolene and I Will Always Love You in the Same Day?
Oh man, no, but I bet he did something even more.
Well, do we know what he did with his life, like with charitable work and like how he cared for other people the way Dolly does? I don't know. We don't know.
So, all right, so there we go. Now it's the 3-11 matchups. This will be Aretha Franklin versus Bob Dylan.
Franklin.
Okay, Aretha.
Sorry, Bobby.
Okay, so that's a good one. So Aretha on to the Sweet 16. So now we have the 4 versus 5.
So Bono versus Crosby.
Bono versus Fanny Crosby.
I have an answer, but I'm going to let someone else go first.
Okay, Christina. Fanny Crosby or Bono, 2 very similar people. They both are known for wearing very fancy glasses, but for different reasons.
Crosby. Woo-woo.
Crosby.
Yep.
Crosby. Is that who you're saying, Mandy?
Yep. And I think Bono would agree, frankly.
All right. There we go. So now that is it for... So we have our Sweet 16 now. So now it's 1 versus 5. So it's Bach versus Fanny Crosby.
Uh-oh. Oh, I really like Fanny. I'm going
but
Fanny.
you guys had already talked about not messing up the whole Bach thing. So that makes me wonder, are we going to have to mess up the whole Bach thing? Or did you just like screw us by putting Bach on there already, Matt?
Nah, I mean Bach versus Fanny Crosby. It's a binary choice.
Going Fanny.
You're going Fanny. What are you saying, Christina?
Oh gosh, I think people would kill me if I didn't say Bach. So I'm gonna go Bach.
I'm also going Bach. Sorry, Mandy.
Dang it. That's all right. Cheers,
and sorry
Fanny.
to Fanny Crosby.
I fought for you. Okay.
All right.
See, but I would have Fanny Crosby over Dolly Parton. That's the
mainly,
hard part.
I don't want Terry Moon to be mad at me, so I'm going with Bach. Next one. Oh, this is a good one. Aretha Franklin versus Dolly Parton. I see what Mandy's thinking right now. I could it's almost like there's a little thought bubble. She's like, dare I pick Dolly Parton again?
Well, I think
I'm going to go Aretha Franklin.
I was just thinking with Christina that I would have picked Fanny over Dolly, but
sometimes the matchups just don't break your way.
You know what? Aretha, just because of the gospel background, we got to go Aretha.
Sorry, that's what I was thinking too.
So that
just
leaves
some of the depths in her story. I think it's kind of hard to, argue.
Here we go. Who's going to go to the final four? It's between Johann Sebastian Bach and Aretha Franklin.
No, I thought we dropped Bach. Oh no, I did. You didn't. Bach or Franklin?
Yep.
Bach.
Franklin.
Oh man.
I told you, Matthew, you messed this one up.
I'm sorry, Aretha. I'm so sorry, but I need to go with Bach. I'm sorry, Aretha. All right, so there we go. Our first final four.
Okay.
Coming out of the Griffin region for musicians is Johann Sebastian Bach.
Okay, is this going to be 4 episodes? Because
it might be a multi-parter. We'll see.
I think so.
If anyone needs a break, let me know.
No, I'm good.
I think it needs to be a multi-parter.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could do several days in a row. We can do it.
Sure.
All right. So let me do a little intro just in case. All right, folks, that is the end of our first region. To come back for the next regions, please tune in next time for more exciting action on March Madness, brought to you by the Anselm Society.